Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Library, where Star Wars is in print, the Force is with the readers, and we return to September of 1985 for this episode. I'm your host, Nathan P. Butler. September of 1985 is a big deal in Star Wars to a degree. The very first Star Wars cartoon series, and we're talking series here, not the quick little bit with Boba Fett from the Star Wars Holiday Special here, but the very first Star Wars cartoon series were Droids, The Adventures of R2-D2 and C-3PO, and Ewoks by Nelvana Limited. They were both premiering on September 7th of 1985 on ABC. Now, with those out there, you would think that this is the beginning of Ewoks and Droids, but as those of you who've been paying attention to From the Star Wars Library know, this was not actually the beginning of seeing the characters and characterizations of those series. In fact, the Ewoks series have been going on since January of the same year. Now we're at September of 85, the series have premiered, and we get a new issue of Ewoks, but still not yet the first issue of Droids. In this case, the Ewoks issue we're looking at is issue number 5, The Terrible Machine here. You've got an alien inside this machine with sort of a drill on the front of it, or a saw blade on the front of it, saying, "We will destroy every tree in the forest before we are through." And then at the bottom, in this issue, a menace from outer space threatens the entire Ewok world, which of course is actually, a moon, not a world or a planet, but that's okay. This, of course, again, by Dave Manak and Warren Krimmer doing the artwork. It can also be found these days in the pages of Star Wars Omnibus, Droids, and Ewoks. Make sure you catch the one that says Droids and Ewoks. There is one that just says Droids, and that's all the Dark Horse Droid stuff. Droids and Ewoks is one with the Star Comic stuff in it. So in the same month that we're getting Ty in the main Marvel series, a story of essentially a prisoner of war and learning between two different cultures and all this really deep stuff, here we are getting kind of an environmentalist lesson, I suppose, to a degree. It's a story that, again, includes multiple parts, as they always do. In this case, The Terrible Machine is part 1. You eventually get to part 2, The Discovery, and part 3 is entitled The Battle. Not a whole lot of a surprise to what these titles entail. Suffice to say, Shaka and Paplu, a couple of Ewok scouts, older Ewok scouts than Wicket and Tebow, they wind up discovering these alien woodsmen who have no species name yet, Zol, Rock, and others, and they have these Funars, which are like these spiky, scaly-backed elephant-type creatures from Endor, and they are driving them to harvest trees, and they're going to just cut them all down if possible. And as Wicket and Nisa are out running around in the forest, perhaps playing doctor. Nah, probably not yet at that age. They're running, and they wind up running into Dooney, which is the little baby Funar, the little baby elephant character. So the Funars have apparently abandoned him. They're like, well, why is that? They wind up searching around and find this big hole-in-the-ground kind of trap that was used to capture his mother. And they're using the mother, who is the leader of the Funars, to drive the other ones. In the process, though, of checking out that little hole, Wicket winds up finding it by accident. By falling into it, he's hurt his ankle. So he's having to sort of be hobbling along or riding on the back of Dooney throughout most of the rest of the story. The scouts arrive back, not knowing about Wicket and Nisa finding this, and report back to Chief Chirpa. And Chirpa, boy, does he have a positive outlook on life and on bad guys here. The scouts show up and say, "Chief Chirpa, alien woodsmen on the far side of the grasslands. We heard their plans to cut down the trees of Endor." Chirpa says, "What? Perhaps these woodsmen are unaware that we live amidst the trees. We must go to them and explain that these trees are not for the taking." Yeah, because they're going to listen to that, Sparky. To which one of the scouts replies, "And if they do not heed us, sire, then they will see how Ewoks defend their home." Okay, and it winds up basically being the two scouts and Chirpa who go off to defend their home at this point. For their part, Wicket and Nisa discover a huge, somewhat huge starship that these woodsmen apparently came on, and Wicket decides to find out what they're doing. And he climbs up and starts looking through a window. Now, the weird thing here is that they introduced this miniature version of their terrible machine, as it says there on the title. This machine that basically can move forward on tank treads with this big saw blade and make it really easy to cut down the trees and whatnot. And as he's listening in through the window, he starts banging on the window and somehow breaks through and falls. He must be super duper strong. Super Ewok, the Uber Ewok, Uberwalk, because he somehow not only breaks the glass, but some of those metal pieces apparently go right with it, because as you see from panel to panel, the continuity just is not there between what metal is there versus what glass is there. Suffice to say, he falls down. He is spotted by the others. The others are like, yeah, screw it, doesn't matter, he's just one Ewok, what's he gonna do? We've got the Funars to help us, and since there's something wrong with the machine that goes on the tank treads, they need the Funars to push it. That's why they got them in the first place. Unfortunately for them, Nyssa and Wicket find the machine, hide themselves inside it, and then set it active. And it looks like it's about to chop one of the woodsmen with his own little machine here. Only it winds up going forward enough that it starts drilling, thanks to one of the Funars pushing it, starts drilling into the side of the ship. The woodsmen jump aboard and escape because apparently it didn't do enough damage to the side of the ship. And finally, to get rid of that thing so that nobody else can ever use it, the Funar mother pushes it over into basically a ravine. It falls, it crashes, it is gone. And then the scouts and Chirpas show up, only to find that the day has already been saved by Nyssa and Wicket. So again, kind of a cutesy little story, as usual, sort of an environmentalist type of message here. How dare you cut down the trees of Endor, this is our home, etc., etc. You can sort of see the EPA saying yes to this particular story here, and it does have a message that, especially in the 80s, was becoming something a little more prevalent in modern media. So, this story, though, entitled again, The Terrible Machine, is this an essential read? As is often the case with our Ewok stuff here, the answer is no. Not for modern, Marvel, or Ewok viewers/readers here. It's just a quick little tale with a quick little message, and not a bad tale per se, just a quickie. Nothing really to write home about here. With that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the readers.